I mean, I suspect that you probably have had issues like this with your mother for a while, because I think this doesn't suddenly become someone's...
So it sounds like there might be like hints and whiffs of like your mum and you're always giving in to her and she can't keep telling us like to do these things.
Or is there something about the quality of the relationship that she also wants to hold on to? And if that's the case, can you then be not transparent, but can you both have a conversation about how you could achieve that? Hi and welcome back to the therapy floor, and we are Doctors Vicky
And Ritz.
and we have a new dilemma for you today.
Let's get going. So this one comes in and it says, "Hi ladies, I wonder if you can help me with this dilemma I'm yet to face, but I know it's going to be an issue in the future. So I'm originally from Hong Kong and I moved to the UK 10 years ago. I fell in love and married my husband a few years ago now, and we're ready to start building a family. Congratulations." The problem is my mother has become increasingly imposing when it comes to her expectations and requirements around her grandkids. She says that as I was the one to make the decision to move away, I have to ensure that my children have a relationship with her. She's asking for yearly visits back to Hong Kong and is not taking no for an answer. I worry that her expectations will place a strain not just on our relationship, but mine and my husband's too. Please help preemptively.
It's an interesting one.
Different one.
Yeah, quite different to what we've had before.
Yeah, because I think you can see this maybe from two sides of one is this rumination and anxiety and worry, like what if? Mm-hmm. But then there's the maybe more self-aware, maybe a bit more self-reflective of I can see this is potentially going to become an issue.
Yeah.
Can I maybe pre-plan and think about how I want to maybe respond in a way that's collected and cool and calm rather than reactive?
Yeah. I mean, I suspect that you probably have had issues like this with your mother for a while, because I think this doesn't suddenly become someone's... I feel like this situation or this behaviour is probably symbolic or probably like, characteristic of her behaviour or a character essentially, or personality.
This pattern will have played out.
Yeah. And, I wonder how you've dealt with that previously and even what your relationship is like. I mean, clearly you are concerned about your relationship with her because you're not wanting this to impact your relationship in the future. And I wonder if she's ever voiced her concerns about your relationship with her. I wonder if she has any fear about you actually moving away, metaphorically, from her. And it sounds like she's a bit jaded that you left Hong Kong.
It's interesting that you use the word, is your mum afraid that you've left? And because what's coming through in the dilemma was blame. Like her mother is blaming her for moving away.
Yeah.
And with blame, there's often a current of anger attached, I think, when we're trying to blame others. And we've said this quite a few times, haven't we? Like underneath anger is often another emotion. So is there fear that's driving anger, that's driving blame?
Yeah. And entitlement.
Yeah.
So I don't know how easy that is for you to tap into or get in touch with your mum's potential sadness or fear or anxiety about her losing something with you, like losing some kind of connection with you. I don't know if you've been able to do that and how you feel about that.
That's making me wonder if your mum has ever shown you vulnerability in your relationship, because I think that requires a certain level of vulnerability for her mum to do that, which I wonder, does it come naturally to her? Has she seen that before? Or does it come up as a defense mechanism?
Yeah.
Which is potentially what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sad you're going, I'm anxious you're going. so I'm going to go into a bit of a like control and attack mode. Have you seen vulnerability in your mum before? And if you have, great. I think that's a good way in for you to connect with the vulnerable part of her.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, I just guess I want to empathise that is quite a hard task for you to connect. Because it's almost like you're trying to then knock around and find a way in of how do I connect here with her? How do I keep this relationship not under strain?
Yeah.
And in a loving place, even if like maybe one party's not happy, can there still be love there?
Yeah. Because the answer isn't for you to just acquiesce and just, give in to her demands, because there'll be more demands, won't there? It's not just these demands. I guess what we may be picking up is a sense of entitlement that she has, and where she's placing herself in terms of importance in your new family makeup. And so I think if you gave in to her demands and just said, yes, 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 we'll do this, there'll be something else and there'll be something else, because you're constantly still having to prove to her that you value her, that you want her. And so I think it's better to speak to the essence of that, isn't it? Just to go right in there. It's not always easy because the other person may not be vulnerable enough to allow that frank
They might not even be
conversation.
aware.
They may not even be aware. But if you can, I'd encourage you to speak about, Mum, I'm concerned about the strain this could have on our relationship, and also the relationship that I'm going to have with my husband. What are your thoughts on that? Like, I want us to have a good relationship. That's my concern here. How can we proactively work together to ensure that we remain in good standing with each other? So you can kind of speak to the problem rather than the demands, the symptom.
Yeah. I want to come back to the word of strain because, like you said, this sounds like a pattern. Even though you've not mentioned it as a pattern, I think our antenna as therapists are a bit like, this is going to be a
Ding,
pattern.
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm wondering is when it's been strained before, how have you navigated it? What role do you play when the relationship is under strain? What role does she play? Is there a power imbalance as grown-ups? Was there a power imbalance as a child and an adult that has maybe never shifted? Those are the types of questions I would be wanting to know. Like, does she place these demands on you? Are you quite passive in them? Do you feel maybe that you can't voice them? Do you keep them to yourself? And then does it just like dissipate on its own, and that you either give in or she doesn't ask? And then it's just like goes back to normal until the next demand and the next demand. And I wonder, has your now husband, has he noticed it going on in the relationship between you two? Has he voiced any concerns or any opinions about it? Like, as an outsider who's now in the family, can he see something playing out which he doesn't think is particularly healthy? And a clue gives me the answer that yes, because you've said, I'm worried about then that impacting on our marriage.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there might be like hints and whiffs of like your mum, and you're always giving in to her, and she can't keep telling us like to do these things.
Yeah.
Like, we have our own lives now, we're going to build our own family. And that's not uncommon either.
No, it's not. Especially if your husband is the one that you go to complain about your mum.
Yeah.
And he sees the impact it even just has on you.
Yeah.
He will probably have a lot to say about it. So maybe you can have a conversation with him too, actually, as well. But I know it's hard, like, when you're having these sorts of discussions with people who are part of the issue, it can be really hard for you all to remain objective. Yeah, it's a tricky one.
It is really tricky, and I don't think it's just one conversation either.
No, I think it might have to be like a repeated
Yeah.
theme that you come back to time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think your culture's going to also play a big part in this, and I don't want to assume what your culture is, but was this a role that your mother played with her parents that has been passed down through the generations of this isn't just an expectation we have, and this is something you do?
Yeah.
And now are you potentially, in her mind, rocking the boat here? And she can't see maybe why, because she played into that role and those behaviours.
Yeah.
With either like her parents or her in-laws. I don't know. I'm just like testing waters here for things for you to potentially think about. Is your culture the same as your husband's? Does his family bring different expectations to it? And what culture do you and your husband want to create together?
Yeah.
What's the value set of your family, the two of you, that you want to bring to you and like your future children? And then I think boundaries is going to play a big part in that, because I think once you start to figure that out, everybody might not be, not everybody, but people might not be okay with it. They might not be respectful of it. Their demands might get bigger as a way to control.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're valid in saying that that can definitely put a strain on the both of you, like you and your husband. But I think if you keep coming back to the both of you and what you both want together, like you're the unit in this. So you can lean on each other for that support when maybe the ones that are knocking are like, you're not doing it this way, or we've asked you to come here and you've said no and we're not happy about it.
And I also think, what sparked a thought in my mind, Ritz, was when you mentioned, what kind of culture do you want to set up with your family, with you and your husband? And it also made me think of, maybe you could ask your mum what kind of relationship she's wanting to have with you and with your kids. So she wants a relationship, but what does that look like? What does having a relationship look like or mean to her? Is it just about physically laying eyes on each other? Is it just about close proximity? Or is there something about the quality of the relationship that she also wants to hold on to? And if that's the case, can you then be not transparent, but can you both have a conversation about how you could achieve that, even if you're not able to get there every year? Like, is it that she wants your kids, rather, Freudian slip there, her kids. Does she want your children to lean on her emotionally, to have like that close psychological bond? Is it about keeping up appearances and being able to say to, other friends and family, like, yeah, these are my grandkids? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what is it? What kind of relationship does she want with you? What kind of relationship does she want with your children? Because that could also help take the fear out and the sting out. If she's worried that she's going to be forgotten, we're so blessed in this day and age to have access to technology that means that we can be in contact with people even though we're on the opposite side of the world. So a relationship, although harder, can still be maintained. And I wonder if you could have that conversation with her as well.
There's something about effort in all of that, isn't there?
Yeah.
That sometimes I think we take relationships for granted, especially when they're in very physical, like, proximity to us. Like, they're there, we turn up, and we're not maybe really giving it much thought, like, what are we wanting, what are we giving to these relationships? Whereas when you are further apart, a lot of effort goes into making the time.
Yeah.
And also, like, if you are on FaceTime, it's not like you can necessarily, well, you can if you wanted to, but it's not really like, oh, we'll just sit there. Like, we'll just sit in each other's presence.
Yeah, and watch TV together.
Yeah. Like, there is a real effort to converse, to be curious, to connect, to ask questions, to listen.
Yeah.
Coming back to, like, the question of, you have to come to her.
Yeah.
Like, where's the effort on her part?
Yeah.
And again, is that a familiar pattern of, I'm the mother, I sit here, and I expect, like, people to come to me? Is she the matriarch?
Yeah.
Has she taken that place? Was there a previous matriarch? Was she waiting for her time?
I also want to throw like a spanner in the works, which is, you probably aren't ready for this, and probably you probably won't even need to do this, but do you even want to think about the relationship, if you want your children to have a relationship with her, and what that could look like for you? Because if she has this expectation, if there is this blaming going on, you made a bad choice, so you have to deal with the consequences. You left, so therefore you have to come to me every year. It's not like a collaboration. It's not like, oh, okay, how are we going to make this work? You know, how can we, do we need to take it in turns? You know, there isn't that sense of like teamwork here. It's dictatorship. Bad child made a bad decision. You're going to have to live with the consequences. Do you want that influence around your children? Just saying. And you may
put it out there.
Just putting it out there. And you may do, but you may want to think about the proximity and how you filter that out, and how you filter the negative effects of being around someone who has that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Because you will feel it.
Yeah. And I think when you have your kids, it's then going to illuminate it for you even more, especially when you start thinking about the type of mother you want to be to your children. Like, I wonder if you were to be a mother and your child met somebody and got married and moved to a different country to you, I wonder what your response would be. Would it be like blame, like, you've done this, like as Vicky was just saying, or would it sound something maybe different, which was like, oh darling, I'm so happy that like you've met this person, and I'm excited for the life you're going to create in this other country with them, and you know, of course it's going to be scary and I'm going to miss you so much, but you know, we're going to make it work somehow. Like, I don't want you to hold that as a concern. I want you to go and like enjoy this part of your life now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just wondering there.
Yeah. Just putting that out there for you too.
Yeah. We've put a lot out there, haven't we?
Yeah.
A lot of questions back to you, which you might, you know, want to take to therapy and think about further. Has your relationship with your mum come up before? My guess is it has. And so I think, especially before becoming a mother, maybe some things to dive into.
Yeah.
For yourself. To just get a bit more clarity and direction, especially in the type of mother you want to be.
Yeah. Thankfully, you've got time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you for bringing this here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I think people are going to relate to this.
I think people relate to some elements of it. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We will see you on the floor very soon. If you have a dilemma that you'd like us to tackle, you can email us at hello@thetherapyfloor.com. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
I'm Dr. Ritz.
And I'm Dr. Vicky.
Bye.
Bye.